lot of men are really broken about this one, particularly young men. They have streaks. Wake up at 5, work out an hour a day, 1 gallon of water, no jerking off, no porn, cold showers. Everything in their life is rejection of the parts of them that they need to integrate. If discipline is the answer for everything, then humanity is the problem. Think about that. But what if the way that you go about these things and the parts of you that you reject make discipline more mandatory? And I'm not saying that discipline isn't required. Discipline is required. But don't make discipline a god. It's a part that we have to start realizing that there's discipline for when you make a change. Once you make that change, it becomes integrated into who you are. It becomes part of you. When you make a commitment to start showing up for the gym, the first 2 weeks require discipline. After that, you see the results. You feel good. You embody the lifestyle, and now it sticks.
Right.
The connection has now been created when the connection was now not there. But this whole stop, you can't repress anything. Somebody needs to tell that. Like, if you're feeling rage and you're telling yourself to stop being angry, you're going to have microaggressions throughout every small interaction that you have. If you tell yourself, oh man, I'm trying not to jerk off, I have to stop, you're going to keep jerking off, and it's going to keep happening. Isn't that kind of interesting? So
Absolutely.
The way that you break this is by finding the emotion, accepting it, and then developing a relationship with it. This is something I do all the time. And this is something very interesting in regards to like shadow expressions. That anything that you repress will be expressed later. So when you think about, fuck man, another day, barely made it, almost killed a few people with rage, good thing I went to sleep, right? Start realizing that you are a ticking time bomb before you explode. Start addressing these emotions. Accept them. Release them. Easy to glamorize the things that you don't have, and very easy to demonize the things that you do have. And if you do that, you're alone. Because you're living in a fantasy world. You never showed up for anything. You know, you only showed up for everything that didn't exist. You know,
right.
Man, okay, I'm going to be a millionaire one day, right? That's what you tell yourself. Your friend says, let's get lunch. And as you get lunch, you're like, bro, I got no money. Can you get me lunch? But I promise, man, when I have money, I'll buy you a yacht. How much is that worth?
Nothing.
It's not worth shit. And that's most people's lives. So you're wondering why when people travel around the world, they're just so like, wow, we lack community. It's because we abandon each other here, like as if we can't create community. They have a value behind community. We don't. And that's the difference. We also have a sense of entitlement that we're supposed to be competing with one another because that's what we're told to get us to work harder. It's a lie. We naturally congregate. We naturally commune around core values. And that was taken away from us because all you need to do is give us a belief is that you should be better than your neighbor. And then there he goes. Love thy neighbor like thyself, right? And then there's the other commandment that is constantly broken all the time. Is thou shalt not covet. So you do both. You hate your neighbor like yourself, and you covet their things too. Coveting is to want not what they have, but what exactly they have. I want your watch, not a watch like yours. Most people would have demons hunt them down for the rest of their life if they said, I'm enough. So there's something ironic about that, which is, wait, hold a second. So you've attached all of your value to the external because if you believe somewhere deep down that if you started saying you were enough, and this is actually crazy, do this with yourself, I challenge you. Take a deep breath, put yourself into a center place, and say these words. I'm enough, I'm more than enough. And as you say it, your soul will fucking receive it like this. But everything about your nervous system will reject it, and then you're going to start experiencing fear. When you start experiencing fear, write down all of those fears. And guess what? That's really what you are. Now you have something to be brave about. You know, your brave was illusion. You were missing a part of your brain that made you think that you had no fear. No. You immediately became not relatable. The most relatable individuals are people that are flawed. There are people that suffer. There are people that suffer. There are people that are afraid. But they choose to do things that are best for them. And then they show you one thing that everybody drops on their knees with. Courage. Courage. You know, you try to resist yourself from feeling fear. Fear doesn't detract from what you are. It only shines a light on it. It really does confirm that as human beings, we are brave, we have courage, we are strong. We have weakness, we have fear, we have doubt. That's what makes us impressive. We exist with the duality. We exist with the consciousness to know the difference too. And if we can start choosing the things that we wish to be, not denying parts of us to allow us to just exist one-dimensionally, but to embrace both sides and choosing. And that's where the significance, power, recognition, and by the way, most importantly, love comes from. Because love can only be had when there's choice. Most people don't even choose somebody. They don't even want to ask them questions. And so now you ask yourself, am I enough, right? Think about how you do that on a date. What do most people do on a date, right? They're just like, well, I asked the serious questions. Okay, Mr. Coach Naftali, I won't ask serious questions anymore, right? And then you're like, well, no, you asked the questions and then rationalized. Did you actually decide to dive deep into somebody? Because if you really want to love somebody and you're looking for love, you're going to have two people not mindlessly flirting with each other. You're going to have two people investigating. There's more dirt. There's more dust. Clear the space. I want to see you. I want to see you. Come out. I want to see you. And then what ends up happening is that they actually show you who they are. And then they go, which is why people fear rejection so much. They're going to be seen for the first time. And imagine being seen for the first time if you've never seen yourself. You know how much fear you're going to experience? Do you know what happens when you see yourself and then you allow somebody to see you? You go, check them out. Stand naked, right? Think about the kind of courage it takes for an individual to dive deeper into themselves, to clear the dust, to see what they are, and then to have a relationship with it. And the only way to have a relationship with it is to accept it, because that is the first step of love, acceptance. A lot of men inherently have what you call a split. They have the woman they can experience wonderful sex with, but don't respect, but the woman they respect and can't have wonderful sex with. Now, there's a particular problem with this, which is if men don't realize that they're fucking women that they don't respect, the woman that they respect, they will not fuck. And that's just how shit works. So when you go, oh, fuck, what am I doing to myself? I'm literally eliminating my ability to have both. It's because you need to bring both into the same room. If you want sex, you gotta have respect. If you want respect, then you can have the sex. But this insecurity-driven society is making people go against their own values because they would much rather think they're in a powerful position when they're suffering. Identify the insecurity. And then you can actually start realizing that you can't live without both. You know, you want the mother, you want the wife, you want the children, you want the family, you want the hard work, you want the ethic, you want the joint business. But then also at the same time, you want the monkey ape sex and orgies, whatever it is. You're going to have to realize that those are one and the same thing. And see how you've created this compartmentalization in your head that doesn't allow you to see it as real. The only thing that would change the way that you see your reality is your behaviors in the reality, lined up with your beliefs. Of course, you need both. Because it's an absurdity to think that you could have love without respect. They're the same thing. Particularly for men in long-distance relationships, you cannot fly out to her. Make this very clear. You cannot just leave the position by which you want to invite her in to go ahead and see her. Now, this is from my experience from coaching thousands of people. I'll tell you, it never works when the guy goes there. And I'll tell you why. For a man to uproot his foundation and to go all the way to pretty much perhaps even a foreign country or the other side of the world, she is sending her, a message, which is what I have there does not take priority, and that I'm willing to go ahead and do this. Now, this is designed to trigger you, because I can guarantee you, every guy that has flown out has not gotten world-class pussy. They have gotten expectations and conditions, because of course you would. What kind of guy would leave the things that are so deeply important? Or at least that he claims to be so deeply important. So when you begin to realize that, you have to start owning up to the things that you do, and you can invite her to come here. But once you're going all the way out there, you're sending her the wrong message that you would also leave all of these other things there too if there was a pretty face. It's going to take more than that to abandon the things that you believe. And men's belief system and their values are exactly what protects the woman. When they have a relationship with those things, she feels safe. You've compromised the ability to make her feel safe. To undermine the things that you believe so easily, and then to say that you really believe those things the way that you did, and then off a whim go ahead and compromise them, it's okay to say that you didn't really believe those things. That's a more honest thing to have than to say, I believe these things and then compromise them and rationalize. Rationalization is a really big thing for men. They'll often go about things that do not line up with who they are, and they'll have a dialogue that still makes them feel powerful and significant. It's nonsense, because what you need to do is stop rationalizing, eat the bullet, it sucks, you compromised your values, and then start building up, realizing that you're not somebody who's honest to themselves. That's a very dangerous discovery to find. Start realizing that perhaps you need vulnerability, because you always resort to protection, not confronting the insecurity. You have to resort to confronting the insecurity and being open with it and interacting with it and then releasing yourself from it. And then, of course, there's all the things you love about yourself: majesty, power, royalty, significance, charm, charisma, control. It's all there. The reason why it's so painful to break up with somebody is because you're often going to be left with a few things. One of them is all of the pain of saying goodbye, not just to the person, but to what that person represented for you. The absolute crippling disappointment of all of the time that you've invested, thinking that you haven't gotten something from it. And that's a big mistake that people have. And of course, the last one is because you guys did share something. But to think that just because it didn't last a lifetime, that it lost value, is the problem. All of these things have to do with perspective. Breakups don't need to be any more painful than they are. I believe that if you were to feel and experience your pain without coping and compartmentalizing and avoiding, perhaps maybe you would realize that it was everything that you needed to get into the next appropriate relationship that you can deliver on. Because that's the point. Not to mindlessly be breaking up with people and going into the next relationship, but to be confronting those three things. And then once you do, allowing that pain to come with clarity and discovery of yourself. And then they actually did something that is loving. They helped you find more about you. Women weaponize their traumas a lot. And it's part of how they gain control. If she brings up her past and talks about because of her past, she can't hold any accountability, the relationship's over. If she owns up to the fact that she's taking accountability for how that relationship has affected her, then the relationship can work. But the second people start weaponizing their traumas is the second people no longer free themselves from their traumas in a relationship, meaning they can't be in relationships. So there's something very interesting here. Men do it too, but it's a different kind of way. It's more protective, more avoidant. A lot of the time women will go, you have to understand, I've been in this relationship. And most men will go, baby, I totally get it. You could totally cheat on me. I get it. Right? Like, you see, it's disrespecting yourself. And that's a weaponization of trauma. It's inherently a narcissistic thing to do, which is to utilize compassion, to get them to give you compassion for the fact that you have no accountability for your wrongdoings. So the whole point is that you get somebody to have accountability for their wrongdoings and owning up to those things and gaining a relationship with why those things happen to them. So this is something that's pretty interesting here. In relationships, when somebody is weaponizing their trauma, you have to start identifying if this was a first time or a second time. If they did it their first time and you called them out, they're like, holy shit, you're right. I'm bringing up their past. And that's why I'm getting the past in the present. It's inherently what weaponizing trauma is. Then you go, okay, I'm glad you realized that. Set a boundary. That doesn't get to happen again. Do you understand that? Discover that for yourself and come back to this. And let's go back to the dance.
Interesting.
Because just honestly, not even in my own life. Oh, I've had people hurt me before, so I've completely emotionally shut down and I'm unavailable in every way possible. So what you're telling me is that you haven't done any of the internal work with your previous relationship and you're coming into a new one expecting it to be any different?
Yes.
That is very destructive. As much as I think you're hot, as much as I love you, goodbye. Because if you want to have a relationship with somebody that cares about themselves, you need to care about yourself. What does it mean to care about yourself? Look at the records. How much of those records have you integrated? How much of those old things that have happened to you are going to affect this new relationship, or are you going to make peace with these things and resolve them and let go? Well, if you're going to do those things, you could have somebody that cares for you, somebody that loves you. And unfortunately, a lot of people find themselves in relationships going, oh shoot, I'm bringing the past into the present. Of course, it's falling apart. It's the weaponization of trauma. Trauma does not give you the ability to hurt others. It means that you need to realize that if you don't dive into why this has not been confronted, you will hurt others, and it's your responsibility to confront it. You'll be forgiven, of course, when you do something about it. But when you don't, That's just the weaponization. People will walk out. If they stay, well, maybe they want it. Birth control breaks women. It changes the way that their brain thinks, just on a day-to-day, how it processes information. And even the worst part is, it changes your partner selection. So opposed to you actually doing what nature would do, which is look up and across, you start to look down. You look for men that don't show signs of dominance, that don't show signs of masculinity. And instead you go for the more feminine man, which is a really bad thing to do when you're trying to find the most masculine man if you're the most feminine woman, so that you can have the strongest offspring. And then of course, what's the worst part? Well, you get off of it. Your husband or your partner is a complete and total stranger, because it will change the way that you see them after. And then you're going to go back to baseline, and you're going to start realizing, holy shit, I need a man. What I got was a lesbian with a beard. So it's important that you start taking accountability for this, because I think that it's disgusting that the people that are pushing this are going to be all men. And it's going to be men saying woman's choice, so that we can go ahead and develop the most juvenile nature of men. You guys aren't happy about men, you could blame it on the pill. I could tell you why. Men had to start realizing that if you wanted to be a man and you wanted to have sex, you would have to be somebody that can own up to the consequences of sex. So not only have you taken away the responsibility for men to develop themselves, well, also men built it, so it's on us, but not only have men abandoned their own responsibility to be a man, they completely tell women to do this, like as if it's not disconnecting them from their femininity completely and totally and empowering them. I think that's manipulation. I think that's something that is very, very concerning. And it's affecting a lot of people's relationships, because then you don't have to actually make decisions and have harsh conversations with people you just met. Because if the reproductive consequences were actually something that you had in your life, you'd be looking like an idiot, asking crazy questions for yourself. And perhaps you would grow up. Because my God, it changes the behavior, not only sexually, it changes how they engage emotionally, and it disconnects them from their own maternal connection. This glorification of single motherhood is absurdity. It's absurdity. Enough of this shit. I'm a powerful mom, I do it all. Somebody wake her up. Your son cannot interact with women. Your son is broken. I know that maybe you made it, honey. Sure, you reproduced, but your offspring is fucked. The only way that you can really start helping people realize this about themselves is stop glorifying single motherhood. It's awful, okay? A father abandoning a woman is an awful thing. Divorce is not a great thing. Stop glorifying it. There are kids on the line here. If we're brought for one thing here, as an individual and as a parent, it's to protect the children, to grow them and allow them to thrive. And you do that with the child inside of you. It's the same thing. So you begin to glorify single motherhood, which makes women not take accountability for the reason why they were single mothers. That's not good. Perhaps there's something you need to realize. Why are you so easily fooled and so left with a child? That's not an easy thing to investigate when you're left in the position that you are. But to glorify these things means to shut down thought, to shut down negative emotion that needs to be addressed so that you can be in a successful relationship. And even more importantly, not abandon your femininity. That's the thing that makes a woman feel fulfilled. When they're in their feminine, they are connected to themselves fully. And immediately when having to do the masculine role, they hurt the femininity itself, which is what men are designed to protect. And it's all one big mess. How do you keep a society weak? Break the family. Because the strongest children in this world are the children that have parents to go back home to that will listen and provide for them and give them all of what they need to not only survive, but even more importantly, to grow. And to give them tools to do so without putting them in boxes. There's a lot of tragedy in single motherhood. If you're doing it all on your own, and the goal is to keep doing it on your own, stop while you're ahead.